Shalom from Israel to all of the Daystar viewers around the world. I'm Moshe Bar Tzvi, the producer and founder of Israel Now News. We at Israel Now News are dedicated to bringing you the full story and the truth about Israel from Israel. It's written in the Holy Bible when David said in Psalm 25:5, "Lead me in your truth and teach me, for you are the God of my salvation. For you I wait all the day long." And God says in Zechariah 8:16, "These are the things that you shall do. Speak out the truth to one another. Judge with truth and judgment to peace in your gates. And always search for the truth, and the truth shall set you free." John 8:31. I hope you enjoyed the program. God bless you from Jerusalem. Shalom, shalom.
Welcome to Israel Now News. I'm Yochanan El Rom.
And I'm Erin Viner.
In our top story, the European Union has removed Hamas from its list of terrorist organizations. The General Court of the EU has ruled that Hamas, which has perpetrated some of the world's most heinous terrorist attacks, will no longer be sanctioned as a terrorist organization by member states. This action is in stark contrast with the International Peace Quartet, which strictly bans engagement with Hamas. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu demanded that the EU reconsider the decision and nullify the ruling. European Jews were outraged and expressed feelings of insecurity as attacks against Jews in Europe are on the rise. Moshe Kantor, the president of the European Jewish Congress, said, "We have reached a new low in moral relativity if an organization explicitly dedicated to the destruction of a nation and whose members actively target and commit terrorist attacks against civilians is no longer considered a terrorist organization." The EU informed member states that disagree with the ruling that they can continue to freeze Hamas assets for 3 months in the event the court rescinds its decision.
France is on high alert as a wave of Islamic terror is rocking the country. 2 separate vehicular attacks were committed by Muslim men who screamed Allahu Akbar as they rammed their cars into crowds of pedestrians. 10 people were injured, including 5 critically, when a terrorist plowed his van into a Christmas market in the western city of Nantes on Monday. Just 1 day after, 11 others were hurt when another man, claiming that he was avenging Palestinian children, drove his car into a gathering in Dijon. 3 police officers were attacked by a Muslim man 2 days earlier in a central part of the country, who also shouted "God is great" in Arabic. 2 were badly wounded, including a female officer who was stabbed in the face. While reluctant to recognize the attacks as acts of Islamic terrorism, authorities in Paris have acknowledged that thousands of French nationals are involved in jihadi networks in Syria and Iraq, and an unknown number are operating on home soil.
17,000 German Christians gathered in the city of Dresden last week in a massive anti-immigration protest. This was the largest rally organized by patriotic Europeans against the Islamization of the West. The group has staged 10 popular protests throughout Germany over the last 10 weeks, demanding stricter immigration laws. Hundreds of thousands of Syrian, Iraqi, and Afghan refugees have flooded into Germany, which is now Europe's top destination for asylum seekers. The influx of Islamic refugees has put a major strain on Germany's local municipalities. However, the demonstration has its detractors, including Chancellor Angela Merkel, who has spoken out against this increasingly popular movement, warning of xenophobic rabble-rousing. Others have gone so far as to call the protesters Nazis.
The United Nations General Assembly has approved a resolution asking Israel to pay $850 million to Lebanon. Just 6 nations voted against the measure that calls on Jerusalem to compensate Beirut for damage caused by an IDF airstrike that hit storage tanks during the 2006 Second Lebanon War with the Hezbollah organization. Foreign ministry officials in Jerusalem responded by saying that Israel immediately worked with the UN's Environmental Agency and other NGOs to clean up the resulting oil slick that ran along the coast of Lebanon and parts of Syria. They slammed the resolution as yet another opportunity for the international body to bash the Jewish state, saying that it long outlived the effects of the oil slick, serving no purpose other than to contribute to the institutionalizing an anti-Israel agenda at the UN.
Islamic State terrorists are reportedly looting churches and selling Christian relics on the black market as they continue their barbaric campaign of murdering and displacing Christians. Jay Sokolow of the American Center for Law and Justice said that ISIS has a stated goal to wipe out Christianity. This is why they are crucifying Christians, including children, destroying churches and selling artifacts. The fact is, this group will stop at nothing to raise funds for its terrorist mission. Survivors have testified that the looted churches are being used as prisons and torture chambers. Christian women who are captured by these Islamic fanatics are reportedly being sold as sex slaves for $25. The group has also started executing hundreds of foreign fighters who want to quit the terrorist organization. ISIS is said to have created a military police unit to root out and kill members who have become disenchanted with the terrorist army.
In apparent blatant disregard of conflicts and attempted genocides around the world, the Geneva Convention hosted a special session last week to discuss Israeli construction. In what many critics see as clear anti-Israel bias, the group is calling on Israel to cease building homes for its citizens in Jerusalem, Judea, and Samaria. 126 nations voted against Israel, but the United States, Australia, and Canada even refused to attend the conference. Canadian Foreign Minister John Baird released a statement saying that his nation is deeply disappointed by the convening of the one-sided and politicized conference, which only served to single out Israel for criticism.
Despite receiving more than $2.7 billion in pledges to rebuild Gaza, the Palestinians are claiming that they are destitute and unable to start construction. Numerous meetings were held in the aftermath of Israel's 50-day war with Hamas this summer, where several Arab nations pledged billions to rebuild the terrorist enclave. Palestinian Authority leaders, however, are now claiming that they have not seen one penny from major donors such as Turkey, Qatar, and the United Arab Emirates. One PA official cited infighting and governmental instability as possible causes for the non-payment. This comes as sources within Gaza claim that raw building materials transferred to Gaza from Israel are being used to construct new tunnels rather than to repair schools and hospitals. Hamas uses the underground passageways to move weapons and to carry out terrorist attacks and kidnappings in Israel. This further supports Israel's claim that Hamas is to blame for the humanitarian crisis in the Gaza Strip by using funds and supplies for terrorism rather than for the good of the Palestinian people.
Ahead of the Christmas holiday, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu visited Israel's Christian community in Nazareth. From a podium in the birthplace of the faith, Netanyahu said that the persecution of Christians throughout the Middle East is a terrifying phenomenon that is not tolerated in Israel. He went on to say that much of the world remains silent as entire ancient Christian communities throughout the region are being brutally and savagely erased by fanatical Islamist groups such as the Islamic State, but vowed that Israel will continue to protect Christians as it has since the foundation of the Jewish state. While hailing his nation as an island of religious tolerance in the Middle East, Netanyahu pointed out that since 1948, the Christian population in Israel has quadrupled.
A heartwarming act of kindness between Israeli soldiers and Palestinian children was captured on video last week. After several nights of riots, an IDF unit was reinforcing their outpost when they were approached by two Palestinian children from a hostile village asking for food. The Palestinians have a record of using kids to entrap Israeli soldiers and have even forced children to wear suicide vests. Therefore, it was at great risk that the soldiers approached the children and offered to help them. Earlier, the soldiers had been spit at, stoned, and fired on by local Palestinian residents, so no one expected the soldiers to give up their own food rations. But that is exactly what they did. One of the soldiers said that he and his fellow officers gathered up whatever food they had, including provisions which they brought from home, and gave it to the hungry Arab youngsters.
The Jewish state recently greeted 226 new immigrants from Ukraine who joyously waved Israeli flags and sang Hebrew songs during an arrival ceremony at Ben Gurion Airport. Many families were reunited as more than 200 Jews returned to the country after more than 2,000 years of exile. Jewish Agency Chairman Natan Sharansky welcomed the group back to the Promised Land, saying, "We are very happy that you are here," pointing out that they were joining 5,200 members of the Ukrainian Jewish community who came to Israel earlier this year.
The special UN envoy for Ebola has recognized Israel for its extraordinary efforts to fight the disease. According to Dr. David Nabarro, Israel has pledged the most money per capita to fight the deadly virus. Israel's ambassador to the United Nations said global cooperation is more than a moral obligation to provide assistance to people in need. It is an investment in the long-term prosperity of all people. This idea is central to the Jewish value of tikkun olam, the obligation of every person to make the world a better place. Israel has sent 3 fully equipped field hospitals to West Africa, as well as teams of Israeli doctors to train local medical staff in dealing with the deadly disease.
This week, the world will celebrate the beginning of 2015. Everyone here at Israel Now News would like to wish all of our viewers a safe, happy, healthy, and prosperous coming year. And we would like to invite you to visit the Holy Land and join us this year in Jerusalem.
More than 1 million Jewish children have been killed by abortion in Israel since 1948. Israel is currently engaged in a demographic war for its very survival as a Jewish state. Imagine what a difference 1 million more Jews would have made for Israel. Friends of Efrat saves the lives of thousands of children every year by providing support to pregnant women in distress. Since 1977, Efrat has saved over 30,000 lives and is recognized as a world leader in preventing abortions. You can play a major role in Israel's survival now by helping us save Israel's unborn children.
That concludes the news portion of our show. Stay tuned for Ask the Source with Josh Reinstein.
Hello and welcome to Ask the Source. I'm your host, Josh Reinstein, and we're here on a beautiful day in Jerusalem on our rooftop studio. My guest today is John Medved, CEO and founder of OurCrowd. John, thank you for being on the show.
It's great to be here, Josh.
John, tell our viewers a little bit about what is OurCrowd.
So we're a crowdfunding platform for equity, for stock. I mean, your viewers might be aware of the fact that crowdfunding is changing the world that way we know it. You can basically go on the web and you can back projects and ideas. Someone wants to raise the roof on a church, someone wants to record a great record, you can do that. But now crowdfunding's taken another step forward, and it's allowing people to actually back early stage companies and to do so and get stock while they're doing it. So that these investors, because they really are investors, they're no longer just funders, can take part in helping new companies create unbelievable technology and ultimately make money doing so if the investment goes well. We're running OurCrowd here from Jerusalem. We're the world's largest crowdfunding for equity platform. We've invested in 55 different companies. Over $90 million has been invested. And what we're doing is essentially hooking up tens of thousands and hopefully someday millions if we get to your viewers, Josh, with the best companies that are coming out of here in Israel. As your viewers probably know, Israel is the startup nation, and there's so much going on here in terms of new technology for water, for solar, for medical. And I'd love to share some of the stories that are actually happening now in real time in the Israeli technology scene.
Well, your name is very well known in Israel, in investments in Israel. Why, as someone who comes from America originally, was it a good idea to invest in Israel?
Israel has become the world's second source of technology and innovation right after Silicon Valley. When you look at what's coming out of here relative to chips and semiconductors, Intel now has 10,000 employees here in Israel. So much Israel is inside Intel, they should really change their logo to say Israel inside. Some people have joked that Israel has so much benefit from Intel that we should take the menorah and put Intel inside next to it. But whether it's Intel or Microsoft or Google, Facebook, they're all here. There are 300 multinationals who are now working in Israel sourcing this great technology. But where it starts is the startup companies themselves. It's these wild-eyed people who basically come up with new ideas on how to save lives or to grow more food or to change the way that we use the internet. And these incredible people are the rule breakers, are visionaries, the way that Jews have always been so since the beginning. I mean, people ask me, well, what's the secret sauce? How come this is all happening in this little tiny country? And the answer is that Jews, since our father Abraham, have broken the rules and broken the consensus. When everybody else was worshiping idols, Abraham understood that there's God in the heaven. When Abraham got the call to come and live here, Lech Lecha, to go for himself, it wasn't a time when immigration was normal. People didn't go to their immigration office. I mean, just look at Sodom and Gomorrah. What happened if you are an immigrant to a city? That's the way it was. But Abraham took that risk, and he was told by God to come for himself. So Jews have always been risk takers, have always sort of stepped out of their comfort zone, and the world is much better off for it. Part of it's because we're partners with God in creation. You look at the beautiful world, this beautiful rooftop here in Jerusalem. It's not done yet. Okay, the world isn't finished. God rested after 6 days, but he left the rest of it to us to do it in partnership with him. So I'll give you some examples. We have a company that we invested in called Rewalk. It's now a public company. The symbol is RWLK. Your viewers, if they'd like, could go look at it on the NASDAQ. It was one of the more successful IPOs or public listings of a company this year. What this company does is it allows paraplegics to walk again. The company was founded by Amit Gopher, who was a great engineer who had a terrible car accident and became a paraplegic. Actually, he's a quadriplegic. He has no use of any of his limbs. And he said, I'm going to work on a device that will let people walk again. So literally today with Rewalk, you strap on robotic legs, and a person who has been confined to a wheelchair can get up and walk again. And I can spend most of our time talking about different companies that are just literally changing the world that we're part of. What we do is we find these companies, we hunt them down, we diligence them, we check them out, we call their customers, we take a deep look at their technology under the hood, we do reference checks on the people, and then we decide that we're going to invest our own money. But unlike the old school venture capital where this is all going on in a back room, sort of clubby kind of thing, we go to the web and we say, okay, we'd now like to invite your viewers and the rest of the people around the world to actually join us in this investment. The minimum investment is $10,000. So again, this is not your $50 or $100 pledge or Kickstarter campaign. This is really investments for significant real people, but in companies that are changing the world and going public and really, I think, making history from this little country called Israel.
John, there are literally tens of millions of people watching this show. What message do you have for our viewing audience?
Look, I think that, first of all, what you do in terms of linking Israel to these millions of people is incredibly important. This country matters not just to us as the Jewish people and our Christian friends, but to the entire world. Some of the things that are happening here in Israel are world-changing, whether it's companies that are changing food production. We have a company that's, for example, saving the spoilage that goes on in cold food. It's a company called BT9. Half of the world's cold food, perishables like meat and vegetables, is wasted from the time it's produced to the time it gets to your plate. That's a sin. Okay, my mom always told me, finish your food. That was a Jewish concept called Bal Tashchet. Okay, we're now solving that. We're letting the infirm walk. We're solving malaria. We're working on new ways to do laparoscopic surgery. We're doing companies that will essentially make cars safer because they will recognize your speech recognition. They'll do voice recognition by using optics. We have a company that's doing safety for guns. For example, today in America, there's no way that you can use your gun safely without your kid, God forbid, getting a handle on it. You want to put the gun next to your bed, but on the other hand, you want to put it in the safe. What do? This is a company that has a biometric reader on the bottom of your magazine, so only you can use the gun. So a criminal can't grab it, or your kid can't, God forbid, hurt themselves. So you look at how many of these companies are changing the way that people are doing business, the people are growing food, or saving water, or making our energy efficiency. We have a company called Inverid, which is again a joint venture between US and Israeli technologists to save energy in big buildings from air conditioning. We typically recycle so much air to get fresh air in a big building. It turns out you can clean that air up, and so you only have to recycle once a day rather than 20 times a day and save 50% of your energy. This company Inverid just got a grant from the US Department of Energy and is literally saving energy. So whether it's saving energy technology, or it's saving food, or it's making people walk again, it's happening here. But it's happening here together with your viewers, with a partnership where you can invest together, we can help these companies find markets, and together build a world which Israel and America and the friends of what is right and what is good can not only, do good for humanity, but also make some money doing so. It's all a blessing, in my opinion.
Thank you, John, for being on the show.
Thank you, Josh.
And thank you for tuning in to Ask the Source. I'm your host, Josh Reinstein, wishing you a happy new year. Now back to the studio.
It is heartbreaking to learn that there are over 40,000 abortions in Israel every year, many of which are due to financial concerns. The Efrat organization saves the lives of thousands of Jewish children each year by providing support to pregnant women in distress. Please help us save thousands more.
Up next, shining light from Israel.
You've probably already heard about the startup nation and the meteoric rise of Israel's economy. Innovation here is growing. An average of over 60 Israeli companies are bought every year, totaling billions of dollars of value. You'd like to do more than just watch. You'd like to get involved. But how do you get in on the deals? Do you have to speak Hebrew? Do you have to live here? That's where our crowd comes in. We give you access to invest in the best of Israeli startups, hand-picked by our team of experienced investors. Here's how our crowd works. Our team has an average of 20 years of hands-on investment experience in Israel. Through our extensive professional networks, we scout out the hottest technologies, the most talented entrepreneurs, and the most exciting investment opportunities. After we finish our research and identify a select group of companies with huge potential, accredited investors who are members of our crowd can choose any number of our companies to invest in increments as small as $10,000. Our crowd seriously believes in our portfolio companies. That's why we invest our own money in each of these deals. We also actively support our company's growth through an extensive mentorship program. This is good for our companies, and it's also good for you as an investor. Our crowd is a better way to invest in a startup nation. You don't need to know Hebrew, and you don't need to live in Israel. You just need to join our crowd.
Please stay tuned for the ICEJ report from the International Christian Embassy, Jerusalem.
You know, the other day I was just thinking that everything that I have and everything that I know how to do, I learned it from someone. Just the same way I'm walking right now. I learned it when I was born, and then after that, I observed my surroundings, I observed my parents, and then I just learned how to walk. The same way when I went to school, I learned how to read and write because my teachers showed me how to do that. You know, in Philippians 3:17, Paul is talking to the church and saying that imitate me, because Paul was imitating Jesus. So Paul was telling to the church that we need to imitate Jesus, and we need to have mentors. We need to have people who guide us on how to live our lives. You know, in Proverbs 4, we can read that the word says that the word will give you insight and wisdom to your life. In Hebrews 4, you can read that the word is sharper than a two-edged sword. So surely the Bible is the best guide in how to get to know what God wants you and me to do with our lives. Just the same way I'm driving with a car. My driver instructor when I was younger taught me how to drive because I was following his instructions. while we're driving in our lives, we need to be looking all the time to our surroundings. We need to be looking at others. We need to be looking at the threats and opportunities that life brings us every single day. While we're looking at what's happening out there, one of the important things that we should be looking at is Israel. Because God has used Israel since day one in His plans, and He's still using Israel. So there are certain things in the spiritual life and even in the physical land of Israel that are happening at the moment which will affect our lives, because the Bible says that. So while we're driving our vehicles, while driving our lives, we need to be looking at our surroundings, and one of those surroundings is Israel. So now when you're driving the vehicle of your life and you're looking at your surroundings, God will place people in your vehicle. Because we as Christians, this life is not about us, but it's about us serving others, just the same way Jesus did. Ephesians 5 says that we are not supposed to sleep, but we need to arise. Just the same way when we're driving the vehicles of our lives, we cannot sleep, because we will simply crash. And that's what we're trying to do with Arise. To wake up the new generation and the current generation to live fully for God and to understand the purposes of God towards Israel. So stay connected with us. Go to our website, arisegeneration.org. From there you can see our awesome online magazine, which is Arise Now, and also our weekly radio show, Arise Base. You can also come to the land of Israel and experience all by yourself and enjoy it from the 15th to the 25th of July in our Arise Summer Tour. So God bless you from Jerusalem, and I hope to see you with us. What an exciting place to be, what an exciting place to visit. I'm talking to you about the land of Israel, the place where Jesus was born, and Jesus did His full ministry and went up to heaven. We'll come back one day to this very same land. Now you have the opportunity to come and visit this place in the Summer Tour 2014. This place is colorful, it's tasty, it opens the Bible in a new way, and it is very diverse. I will give you a small tour. Now we're in the desert. The beach, culture, history, big city life, awesome food. Israel is not just camels, hummus, and desert. Israel is also modern society, and one of the examples is the city of Tel Aviv, having beautiful beaches like this. In the summertime, these beaches are packed, and you can enjoy also this beautiful beach when we come to the summer tour, to this exact same place.
That's all for this edition of Israel Now News. I'm Yochanan El-Rom.
And I'm Erin Viner, reporting from our studio in Jerusalem. Please join us again next week for all of your Israel updates.